So this first video is going to be over using the distance formula to find the distance between 2 points. These questions are the exact same ones you answered on the Google Forms. They just look different because they're on this worksheet. But I want you to take notes as I go along over the questions that you missed. If I'm going over one you got right, just fast forward through the video until you get to the ones that you missed. So here we go. Let's see. We are using this formula right here. You might hear my dog in the background. She's not super happy I'm not petting her right now. The square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Right, the very first thing we want to do is we want to label our x1, y1, x2, y2. And remember, there is an x and y value in every coordinate point. Oh, there's another dog. Hello. So now that I've labeled these, I'm going to plug them into my equation where they belong. So here I have x1. Oops. Here I have x1. And here I have x1. Here I have x2. Here I have x2. Here I have y1, here I have y1, and here I have y2 and y2. So I'm going to plug each of those in to their corresponding parts. Okay, so I'm going to end up with the square root of, I'm going to plug x2 in, and my x2 was 5, this 5 right here, minus my x1, which this is my x1 right here, 5. I'm going to close the brackets and square it, plus y2, which this was my y2 here, minus 6, or negative 6, minus y1, which was 0. And again, that is squared. Alright, so next step is to start simplifying. So I'm going to take 5 minus 5, which is 0. So I have 0 squared plus negative 6 minus 0. That's just going to be negative 6. I'm going to keep the parentheses around my negative 6 so that I know I'm squaring all of negative 6. I'm squaring that negative value. Alright, and 0 squared is going to be 0. And then negative 6 squared, if I take negative 6 times negative 6, taking negative 6 times itself, 6 times 6 is 36, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm going to add 36. Okay, this is the square root of 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. Right? So the answer for this very first one, the distance between those 2 points would be 6. Alright, so let's go ahead and clear all of that out. Perfect. Glad my equation's still there. Alright, and we're going to do the same thing over here for number 2. Alright. Oh no. Come back. Oh no. Alright, I'm going to start by labeling my values. x1, y1, x2, and let me move this guy over just a little bit. y2. Okay. No. I'm highlighting the corresponding parts. Just to give us a visual, and now I'm going to start plugging those values in. My x2 is negative 6. My x1 is positive 5. So I'm going to be adding 5. I'm going to square that sum. Oh, sorry, I'm not going to be adding 5, I'm going to be subtracting 5. All right. And then I'm going to take y2, which is 1, and I'm going to subtract y1, which is negative 6. And I'm going to square that. All right, and now I'm going to start simplifying this. So I have negative 6 minus 5, which is going to give me negative 11. So I'm going to have negative 11. And I'm keeping that negative inside the parentheses, so I remember to square the negative. And then I have 1 minus negative 6, which is 7. 1 minus a negative, that turns into a plus. 7 squared. Negative 11 squared, I'm taking negative 11 times itself, which gives me 121. And then 7 squared is 49. Okay, I'm going to add those together, is 70. All right, and when I plug the square root, I'm sorry, that should be 170, into my calculator, I'm going to get 13.0384, blah, 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 blah. But this is asking me to round to the nearest tenth. So my nearest tenth, I'm looking at this 0 place right here. 3 isn't big enough for it to round up, so I'm just going to end up with 13.0 or 13. All right. Let's look at number 3. Do it off to the side here. All right, so we're using the same formula again. All right, I'm going to start by labeling my x1, y1, x1, y1, x2, y2. In every coordinate point, you need an x and a y. And now I'm going to start coordinating these. So I have an x1, which is negative 3, and it's going to go here. I have a y1, which is 0, and it's going to go here. I have a x2, which is 5, and that's going to go here. And then I have a y2, which is yellow. Oh, sorry, that's negative 6, and then it's going to go right there where I highlighted yellow. And now I'm going to start plugging these values in. All right, so my x2 is 5. I'm going to take 5 minus my x1, which is negative 3. I'm going to square that. And then I'm going to add my x2. Let's see if I can move this. Oh, good. Okay, that's not really helping me at all. Never mind. My y2, which is negative 6. And I'm going to subtract my y1, which is 0. And I'm going to square that. Gosh, guys, that's just horrible looking. I'm so sorry. All right, and now I'm going to start simplifying. I have 5 minus negative 3. That's going to end up turning into a positive, because anytime you have two negatives right next to each other, they turn into a positive. So 5 minus negative 3 is 8. So positive 8 squared plus negative 6 minus 0, that's just negative 6. I'm going to leave that negative 6 inside the parentheses so I remember to square the whole value. 8 squared is 64. And negative 6 squared is 36. All right, 64 plus 36 is 100. And the square root of 100 is 10, so my distance is 10. Let's see if my next problem can be at least a little bit neater. We'll see. Okay. Whoop. All right, we're going to look at our last distance problem. All right, and I'm going to start by labeling. I have x1, and y1, x2, and y2. Alright, and my x1 is -3. It's going to go here in my formula. My y1 is -6. It's going to go here. My x2 is 1, and it's going to go here. And my y2 is 1, and it is going to go here. And now I'm going to start plugging these values in. No. Alright, my x2 we said was 1, so I'm going to plug 1 in first. My x1 is -3. I'm going to be squaring that, plus my y2 we said was 1. And then I'm going to be subtracting my y1, which is -6. I'm going to square all of that. And 1 minus -3, that's going to end up becoming 4 squared. Plus 1 minus -6, that's going to become 7 squared. 4 squared is 16. 7 squared is 49. I'm going to add those two values together. Alright, when I take the square root of 65, I end up with 8.06. 2257, blah, blah, blah. I'm just focused on that 0.06 right now. I want to round it to the nearest tenth still because of the directions. And when I do that, the 6 is going to cause, that's in the hundredths place. Let me use my little pointer. This 6 here is more than 5, which means that my tenths place is going to go up. So I have 8.1 as my final answer. Guys, if you had to watch this whole video, I'm so sorry. This was not my best video, but I got to keep rocking and rolling or I'll never get these done. Okay, thank you.